Okay, tonight I'm gonna make chicken Milanese. It's a dish that my family likes. We cook a lot. The kids like to cook, and I decided that rather than just writing all these recipes down, we're gonna film some of them so that I can pass them on. They know how to make these dishes and watch me make them versus just read the directions. So we're gonna start tonight with some boneless, skinless chicken breasts. You can get these at the butcher if you want and get them in cutlets already, or these are just breasts that I got without having them pound into cutlets. And they're so thick you can take these in half. You just have to be careful, you know, hold them down, put pressure on them so that you get them even, but you know, watch your hand. And still, one of these is a lot thinner than the others. And then we're gonna pound them out here in a second with some wax paper. But start by cutting them in half lengthwise, and then we pound them out more so that they cook evenly and they turn into chicken cutlets. Chicken cutlets are something that we use a lot. We make this dish, you can make chicken parm. There are a lot of things you can do that you start with chicken cutlets. So now I'm gonna wash my hands real quick. Wax paper and a mallet, and we're gonna pound out these chicken breasts. Some people like to use plastic wrap. I don't like plastic wrap. There's nothing about it that I like. It's always stuck to itself, and it just seems like I never have a good experience with this stuff. We're gonna pound these out, try and make them even. See, nice, even thin. Hard, you'll tear the chicken. So you have to, it's a fun thing to do to take out a little bit of aggression. You have to be careful that you don't get too carried away. You'll tear the chicken. So you just have to kind of go over it more than once, especially if this piece is a little bit thicker. We're about finished. All right, the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna bread these before we fry them. You can buy a fancy 3-piece thing that you can bread in, because what you want to do when you bread is you're gonna start with flour, then you're gonna put your egg or your liquid on, and then you're gonna use your breadcrumbs, and the liquid will bind those breadcrumbs. I just use pie pans. I'm not into gadgets, so I don't buy a lot of different gadgets. I'm just gonna use pie pans, and I will put the ingredients in here. And Kevin, you can help me. Kevin's behind the camera, he's helping me cook tonight. There's 2 or 3 scoops of breadcrumbs in. We're gonna season it with salt and pepper and Parmesan in our breadcrumbs. It gives kind of a nice little flavor. It's probably about 2 teaspoons full of salt. I don't know, I just kind of grab a bunch out of my salt box, and then I just squeeze, you know, it's probably a good teaspoon's worth of pepper. In one of these pans, Kevin's gonna put probably about a cup's worth of flour. I'm gonna add to this just to give it a little extra flavor. Just mix these breadcrumbs up. I don't know, 1/3 of a cup maybe. I don't measure a lot, especially when I cook. Baking, I do measure. Cooking, not as much. Did you already put salt and pepper there? Okay. All right, so let's put a little salt and pepper in the flour. And then we're gonna get a fork and mix that stuff up. So we're gonna do 1 egg. Should be enough for all this. First, some egg wash, do an egg, and then I'm gonna put just a little bit of water in here, and then we'll mix it up. There you go. Let you do that. So olive oil's been all the rage for a long time, and we started messing around with some different things that's supposed to be a little bit healthier. One thing we use sometimes is coconut oil, but that definitely has a flavor to it. So avocado oil is another one, which has a really high smoking point, which is why it's good for these, so that we can get the oil really hot and get the cutlets crisp. We're gonna put quite a bit of oil in here to cover the bottom to give, you'll start to burn if you don't. I know that, you know, everybody tries to go low on the oil, but when you're making cutlets like this, you kind of need to put plenty in the pan. I don't know, maybe a 1/4 cup of oil. Get the fire going. Get that good and hot. We'll go ahead and and start to bread these. So you start with the flour. My hands are going to be gross before this is over because I'm going to end up, there should be a fork here. Let's use this fork. Otherwise I'm going to have breadcrumbs stuck to my hands because they'll just cake on.
Do the bread.
Yeah, you want the breadcrumbs?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm just going to turn this over in the egg wash so the breadcrumbs will stick.
Go ahead and set them in here when they're done.
Okay. Now, as we wait for the oil to get good and hot. And one way you can test the oil is you can toss a couple breadcrumbs in here if you want to see if they sizzle. I kind of just, I don't know, it takes 2 or 3 minutes of while you're on high for it to get warm. Some people, and if you have the time to do this and do it ahead of time, a lot of people will bread their chicken ahead of time and let it sit. They feel like that the breadcrumbs stay on better that way. Honestly, half the battle is to not mess with them once you put them in the pan until they're cooked. You know, if you try to turn them too soon, that's when usually the breadcrumbs will lift off and not stay on your chicken. So what we're going to do is we're probably going to put these in a pan after they're done, stick them in the oven on low so they stay warm while we make the sauce. This dish has got fennel, cherry tomatoes, mascarpone cheese, a little bit of thyme. It's a really, really good dish. It sounds kind of odd if you've never had it before and if you've never had fennel before, but once you cook fennel, it's really good. Okay, and we're gonna start frying this chicken. We've got it all breaded. The oil's nice and hot. In fact, we turned it down a little bit because it was starting to smoke a little bit. You can do 3 pieces at a time, which is about half of the chicken. I'm gonna leave them, I go by sight, but I'm gonna say a couple minutes probably. You can already see that it's starting to brown up around the edges. But like I said, you want to wait until it's completely finished. If you start to try and turn it before, that's when your breading will lift off. Normally while this is cooking, I start chopping up the vegetables, but we'll do that here in a second. This makes a really nice sauce. We're going to make some fettuccine to go with it. And we've got, the cherry tomatoes are fabulous. We have a garden and we have cherry tomatoes from the garden, so they'll be really good and sweet. And we use a little thyme from our garden as well that goes in the sauce. Really simple recipe actually, just kind of unusual with the fennel in it. So, okay. I don't know if you can see the chicken, but it's nice and brown. So we'll give it a couple minutes on the other side. And it'll be, as thin as the chicken is, it'll be cooked all the way through at that point. After we're done, we're going to put them in this dish. Put them in the oven so they stay warm while we make the sauce. Again, I don't want to look these too soon. Let's do a little bit longer. This avocado oil is really nice because it's not burning, which is a good thing. Olive oil is great and it does have a relatively high smoking point, but not as high as avocado oil. So, all right, I think this is going to be good. Down on both sides. Should be cooked all the way through. I might add just a little bit more oil to this pan when we put the other chicken in. Once we finish cooking the chicken, we'll pour a bunch of it off before we start sauteing the vegetables and things. But it's just your chicken will just cook a whole lot better. And if you just pick a healthy oil, you don't have to worry about. I don't know. It's just healthier. There's still calories, obviously. Okay, good, perfect. Thank you. And I'll take it hot again real quick. So we got 3 more pieces of chicken that we're going to put in here. If you just kind of, it's a little bit like a puzzle. If you position them in there right, they'll fit. This is probably my favorite skillet. I don't even know how big this is. Maybe 12 inches. It doesn't have coating on it. Coatings come off. I like the ones that are just, I guess it's a stainless pan. Conducts heat well. You have to obviously use, some sort of something to keep things from sticking, so oil or spray or something. But any of the pans, I've had lots and lots of pans, and I've had expensive pans, and the nonstick finish always comes off, no matter what, no matter how well you take care of them. So I tend to replace them with either the cast iron pans that are coated, or just the plain stainless pans. Kevin's gonna get the pan ready for the pasta. I probably won't, he loves pasta, so there always has to be pasta with dishes like this. Sometimes, probably not with this dish, but if I make meatballs, sometimes I'll make zoodles. I think he has no interest, but most of my kids have zero interest in zoodles. But it's a little thing that will take your zucchini, which we have in the garden too, or you can buy at the store, and it'll make it into little ribbons, or kind of like noodles. So zucchini noodles, zoodles, and you can cook those in. They don't, obviously they're not just like pasta, but they kind of give the same consistency. If you're trying to be healthy, eat healthy, you kind of get the idea of having that texture, that crunchy texture, or that, noodle type texture without the refined carbohydrates. Put some salt in the water for your pasta water. It's good, tastes better if you do that. Salt the water. A little bit of oil. A little bit of olive oil. Just so that it doesn't stick. So the pasta doesn't stick together. Okay, these should be ready to turn. Let's see. I'm still kind of not wanting to. See, look what I did. I turned too soon. That's what happens. Your breading looks off, so I need to leave it up. Yeah, the oil cooled off and I didn't let it get hot enough again. So when you add the oil, you kind of have to wait a little time for the oil to be good and hot again before you start to put your food in, or it will, it will stick. It won't give the way it's supposed to. See, they're all wanting to. It's probably because my oil wasn't quite hot enough. They're all sticking just a little bit, but not too bad. They still have a nice coating on them. So the chicken will have a nice little crunch. Once these are finished, we will kind of backtrack. Like I said, normally I would be chopping vegetables right now, but it's kind of hard to see everything. Then we're also trying to, since these are supposed to be videos to teach you how to make this, we're going to try not to rush it like I would if I were cooking on my own. Okay, so we finished the chicken and poured off most of the oil. I'm going to say again, this oil was fantastic. We just started using avocado oil recently, and I hadn't used it for this dish yet. And a lot of times when you do 2 patches of chicken in olive oil or even vegetable oil, your breadcrumbs will start to burn. The ones that are left over that that kind of fall off. It did not this time, so really love this avocado oil, and it doesn't have a lot of flavor to it. So this is a bulb of fennel. It kind of looks like dill on the end. It smells like licorice. It has a very odd, kind of smell to it, but it tastes so. Sometimes you'll get it on a salad places, like a fancy salad. When you cook it, it gets a much milder flavor. So trim it up a little bit, and then I'm just going to slice this thin. And this will take a little bit longer to cook than the tomatoes, so we'll get it on soon. You can also cut this in half like you would. It's kind of like slicing an onion. So if you were slicing, you could cut it in half and slice it if you wanted to. I'm going to try not to slice my fingers here in a second as we get down to the end. Okay. And then I'm going to just kind of all at once cut these in half so they're a little bit smaller. Like I said, I could have sliced this in half like an onion. That probably would have been the best thing to do. Okay, we kind of turn the oil down. It's still hot though, so we're going to throw those in the pan with a little bit of oil that's on the bottom. And again, I'm going to put a little bit of salt on this. Salt helps vegetables like this sweat. You season just a little bit. There's a lot of stuff going on there, a lot of vegetables and things. And if you season this stuff as you go, you won't need salt when you eat your food. It'll have a good flavor. And if you cook the salt in, it tastes a whole lot better than if you add it at the end, because it's just it's cooked into the food and it has a milder flavor, and it just doesn't scream salt. A little bit of pepper. I probably, there are a few shortcuts I take. I don't really grind pepper. I do use that. The salt I use is kosher salt, and I keep that in a salt box because, like I said, I season throughout. All right, here's another thing I cheat with, and it's the garlic. Put a little bit of garlic in here and then cook it a little bit. I'm going to turn this up a little bit so I have this turned way down so that it wouldn't burn. So we're going to let these get kind of like, again, they're going to be like onions. So you're going to want them to get tender. Maybe 5 minutes. While these are cooking, I'm going to go ahead and cut the tomatoes. So we use cherry tomatoes. So go ahead and cut those in half. See, these are the ones from the garden, so they actually still have little stems on them. Oh, look, Kevin, you're so together. You got these all my knives out. Cut these in half. And you're gonna put the tomatoes in just long enough for them to kind of break down a little bit. You still want them to be tomatoes, but they'll get a little warm and they'll break down a little bit as part of the sauce. So we'll wait until, by the time I finish chopping these up, the fennel will probably be soft enough to add the tomatoes. It usually kind of works out that way. And these tomatoes from the garden are like, they taste, the kids don't agree with me, but I think they're like grapes. If you buy grapes, if you don't have tomatoes in your garden, which most of the year we do not, obviously. So I just buy the container of grape tomatoes and probably use the majority of it. 3/4 to the whole container. It's totally personal preference on how many tomatoes you use. But the grape tomatoes taste really good too, and they're great in this if you make, because this is a great wintertime dish. Actually, we're making it in the summer, but it's a really good winter dish. So I'm just gonna put these right in the pan because the fennel's starting to get a little soft. Timing's about right, and I'll put the tomatoes in. And let the tomatoes start to break down a little bit. Now, I'm going to take, we have thyme. You can use dried thyme, and actually we dry some of our own in the winter from our plants, but these are the ones from outside, so we'll just take them straight off the stem. If you go backwards and just use your fingers, they'll pull off very easily. Herbs are such a great thing. They're really pretty easy to grow, and they're nice to have around because they're kind of expensive to buy at the grocery store. We have thyme, we have basil. What else do we have?
Oregano, rosemary.
Rosemary, I love rosemary, it smells so good. I don't know how much I did here. If you were doing dried, I'd say, like a teaspoon or something of dried. Fresh herbs you tend to use a little bit more than dry, if they're not as potent. So I don't know, I just a few sprigs or a teaspoon or so of dried thyme, so that'll work. That's one of the reasons I decided I'd make these videos, was because I'll give my kids I'll send them the recipe, and one of my daughters said it's lies because I make changes and I don't necessarily write them. Okay, that's looking really good. Here's the other thing you do is you just get a container of mascarpone. I don't know if it's 8 ounces. I think it's more than that.
I think it's about 8 ounces.
And this is, it's kind of like, it's Italian cream cheese basically, but you could use cream cheese if you really wanted to because mascarpone is a little more expensive. We've tried it, not the same. It's worth the mascarpone. It tastes better. This is what you would use in tiramisu. It's a cream cheese basically. It's an Italian cream cheese. It's a little higher end than just plain old cream cheese. So you just put this in here and start to stir it around, and it's going to melt and turn into a sauce. And that's about it. So you've got sauteed fennel, tomatoes, mascarpone cheese. Sometimes we'll put a little bit of milk in this, or cream, or half and half, or something to thin it out a little bit. Sauce is everybody's favorite, so add a little bit of whipping cream. I would use half and half if I had it in the fridge, but I didn't. Or you can even use milk. It doesn't have to be that heavy, but it's a fairly rich sauce, but it's so good. So we just keep stirring this around until all the cheese is melted and then it's finished. All right, Kevin, you get to do the talking. You can do the plating.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm gonna plate this up really quick. We're just gonna do some little pretty plating to make this look nice and delicious. Grab a piece of chicken, just toss it here on the side, and then we're gonna go ahead and top it off with some of the sauce. Like she said, the sauce is the best part, so you want to make sure that there's plenty of it, because who doesn't love a lot of sauce? Perfect. And then we're just going to take a little bit of this thyme, sprinkle it over top, and voila, delicious.